faceoff. Shoots it, deflected, right in. Pietrangelo save, rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkman on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to the first real episode of Tendy Talk. I'm your host, Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This podcast has been something I've been thinking about for some time. Then my wonderful wife and kids gave me a microphone and a book on launching podcasts for Father's Day. That was the kick in the backside I needed to get this thing going. I'm not looking to compete with the likes of Spittin' Chicklets or the In Goal magazine podcast with this. It's simply an outlet for me to have a conversation with other goalies and those involved in this great game of hockey, to share some stories, but more importantly, get to know what makes them tick and what they do away from hockey to find balance, things like that. I know my biggest struggle to start has been, and will continue to be, lining up future guests, so don't hesitate to reach out with your contact information or the contact information of someone else you think I should talk to. For this inaugural interview, I welcome Nashville Predators emergency backup goalie Dustin Bones Smith. Thanks for joining me, Dustin. It's a pleasure to have you on. Well, hopefully this is the first of many episodes and not the only one.
Absolutely,
we'll
man.
see.
Right.
I think the struggle I'm going to have going forward is just getting other goalies lined up. So we'll see. Very excited.
Oh, there's plenty out there. You'll find them. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's making contact with them is the biggest hurdle. But I am excited. I have reached out to one well-known former goaltender, and his reply was absolutely, just after the finals. So
that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
Exactly. So I'm just going to dive right in. On the House of Hockey podcast and some of the other ones you've been on, you mentioned your nickname Bones. You got it playing club hockey in college. Do you feel like you've outgrown that nickname, or does it still pretty much describe you?
Man, not a chance. I mean, I catch myself in the mirror and I'm like, Jesus, this guy's a stick.
Yeah, I remember when I was in college, I was facing the same problem. Our first bus ride to an away game, the coach is passing around the sheet for us to put our height and our weight down for the advanced program going on. And one of my teammates goes, and he wasn't much bigger than me, goes, so I can put that 6'2", 200 pounds, even though like me, he was about 5'10", 155 pounds soaking wet. And
absolutely.
He was so excited. He's like, absolutely not. So, but
that's the program weight, man. Like, yeah I'm 6'5", about 197. Yeah.
Is it my height and weight when I'm on skates with the equipment on, or what?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought. Right.
Yeah. I had the same troubles though in college. I went to the doctor during one of my breaks because I just didn't matter that I was working out every day, eating tons and tons of cafeteria food. I just wasn't putting weight on. And so he ran some tests and just came back that he said, there's nothing wrong with you. Enjoy it while you can, because you'll turn 30 someday and it will change.
Yeah. I've kind of been told the same thing. And here I am at 30 and I'm like, where is it at? Like, when is it going to start happening?
It didn't really start happening until I was about 37. I'm 39 now. I topped out at 200. And since the first of the year, I've been working out, watching what I eat, and I'm down to about 175, 180, depending on the day. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's where I've been hovering at since late high school, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. But those college nicknames, it's funny how they just stick around and haunt you at times.
Yeah.
I had one, in fact, I don't know if you saw my post about a week or two ago where I was sharing my college nickname and asking, others, what's your crazy nickname and what's the meaning behind it? Because sometimes the stories behind the nickname are better than the nickname themselves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Unfortunately with Bones, it's just, I'm a skinny guy. So.
Yeah, but it works. It's fun. I've seen some goalies where they work that nickname into their mask and, how they get it painted, which is fun. Johan Hedberg is the classic example with that moose he always had on his
right.
helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing the story behind the nickname, what attracted you to being a goalie? Because growing up in Tennessee, it's not like you were in a hockey hotbed in those days. What got you into the sport? What made you put the pads on?
Well, so I started playing roller hockey was the first thing I played. I had moved to Nashville from San Diego when I was about 10 years old, and I didn't really have anything going on. Me and my brother were just kind of terrorizing the house. So my parents put me and my brother into hockey. And, my first coach, Jim Lynch, he had two sons about me and my brother's age. And we would go over to his house and play hockey all the time. And I jumped in net always. Like I just wanted to jump in there and, throw on the baseball catch glove and, the player's glove with the cardboard on it. And just played around. My coach asked me if I wanted to try out playing goalie. I said, yeah, sure. And fell in love with it right away, and that was it. Like I wanted to be a goalie. I was from there on in. So
yep. I remember my first hockey tryout. It was for in-house squirt hockey, and I'm going through doing the drills, and they didn't have enough goalies for all the teams, and so they said, "Anybody want to try, being a goalie?" And they just brought out the gloves and a stick. They didn't have pads, because it was mid scrimmage, and of course my hand went up right away. As my dad tells the story, he saw it go up sitting in the stands, and he just goes, "Oh, Jesus, this is going to cost me."
As a parent, I'm sure that's just like a huge heartbreaker.
Yeah. And it's funny, then I wound up getting braces, and my mom said, "Thank God you're a goalie, because I don't have to worry about the teeth coming out."
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Got the full face cage on there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. The fun part about that story is my dad was a fireman, and it was one of his coworkers was helping out coach that day during tryouts, and he was the one that brought the gloves and stick over to me. So he said, next day at the firehouse, they had a talk.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So as we look at the NHL and the state of hockey right now, I saw or heard on one of the previous podcasts you've been on, you were a little skeptical of hockey coming back and what hockey would look like. And I think all of us were. I think we envisioned it being a little more like what baseball's encountered with issues. But what are your thoughts of the way the NHL has handled this restart, and with your connections to the NHL, have you talked to some of the guys to see what they thought of it?
I think they've done a great job. I mean, yeah, really before they got it going, I really thought, just call it a wash, wait till next year, see what happens. But they made a big push for it, and good on them for making it happen and still making it a fun, exciting thing to watch. I mean, as a fan, like it's great. And talking to a couple of the guys, they've had great experiences. Had a good time out there. And yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm all for it. Watching hockey all day again. It's always a good thing.
I was talking to somebody the other day at pickup hockey, and they said I would almost be for a shorter season if they had like 2 or 3 seasons in a regular year, just like this, just a short, condensed, almost World Cup style, where every game matters. It's just edge of your seat. It's been exciting, but I don't think that will ever happen. But
No,
they've made the best of quite an interesting situation. So, I alluded to the fact that, some guys in the NHL, and that's because you're the Nashville Predators emergency backup goalie, which is a pretty interesting thing. But it wasn't Nashville that you became an emergency backup for. It was Florida, and I read the story and everything where you weren't really thinking of going down, but your coworkers kind of push you. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, Florida put out this competition, and of course, everyone was telling me, "Oh, you got to go, you got to do it." And I just kind of thought, I got my thing going on here, and make a big deal out of going down, and whatever. And so my coworker said they were going to sign my application for me, and I was like, "Don't butcher it, please, don't butcher this thing." Like, all right, I'll fill it out at least. And I didn't even think I was invited down to their competition, the camp, and they sent me the email that I was accepted, but it went straight to my junk folder. So I had no idea it was there until a couple days later, and it was that was a fun ride.
So I'm guessing you check your junk mail a little more often these days.
Absolutely, yeah. You never know.
I think for most people, if their coworkers were pushing them to go out of state for something like that, the next question is, well, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? But for you, that wasn't as big of an issue because you worked for Southwest Airlines. So it was a little easier for you to hop on a plane and go down to Florida than it would be for the average goalie, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, the only thing for my coworkers was who's going to work my shifts while I'm gone, because
Yeah.
I had to get some stuff picked up. But guys are more than happy to help out. And yeah, I mean, working for Southwest really helps me kind of get around. And flying down to Florida for a weekend to do a fun competition was a no-brainer.
Yep. Yeah. One of my best friends is a pilot for Southwest. So
Oh
he
yeah,
has
that's
nothing
good
but
stuff.
good things to say about the company. Um,
Absolutely.
so you went through the competition down there in Florida. You got to meet some awesome people. You've mentioned you and Kane Van Gate became friends, and I've heard some of his stuff, and I understand that he's kind of putting on a persona when he's on camera. But is that really how he is as a person, or tell me a little bit
No,
about Kane,
absolutely not. I mean,
because
the
he's
funny thing is, I set my bag down, and I was looking around the room, and I noticed next to me was gear that looked like his, and I was like, oh,
yeah
that'd be funny if it was Kane Van Gate, and here he comes walking in, and I was like, oh, I know this guy, whatever. But super nice,
yeah
super kind of quiet and calm. I kind of expected him to be that internet persona that he is, but he's definitely putting on a persona for
yeah
that. But yeah, hilarious guy, absolutely great dude. So it was really cool getting to meet him there.
Yeah, I love his dry sense of humor. That's for sure. Um, and I think one thing that surprised a lot of people with that Florida tryout was when Linda Cohn showed up, not to interview people, but she is a goalie. She's a huge hockey fan. And, what was it like being on the ice? And, what did you think of her play?
Well, I don't. She wasn't on with our group, but yeah,
Okay.
that kind of blindsided me too. I mean, I had no idea that she was going to be there to try out. I had no idea that she played goalie, but she was the first person to interview me and Bill Ruggiero, the
Hmm.
other goalie who won, and that was the first crazy experience. All of a sudden I turn and here's Linda Cohn, and I'm being interviewed by her. So that really kind of kicked in the experience.
Yeah. Um, have you kept in contact with Bill since the Florida tryout, or have you just kind of lost touch of each other?
Well, we kind of talk here and there. He was in Florida for a while. I think they got hit by a hurricane or something at some point, and
Hmm.
he had a paddleboarding business, and he was having troubles with that. So I think he ended up moving back home to Detroit, and we keep in contact every once in a while.
Awesome, awesome. Good to know he's still hopefully skating, still in the game.
Oh yeah.
Um, so you got your e-bug start with Florida, and you don't hear of e-bugs moving around from team to team, but here you are. You wind up catching on with Nashville, and as the story goes, you just made contact skating at the local rink with guys. Did they know about your stint in Florida, or was it just a coincidence that they found out later?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I got to think they probably saw something about it. This guy from Nashville in Florida doing this emergency goalie competition, but I don't think they knew that the rule would come about after that year, because it was
Hmm.
after that Florida situation that the NHL made the emergency goalie rule. So I think after the rule was made, you know, having that previous relationship with them really kind of helped me become the emergency goalie.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's those pickup skates where the people you meet and where it's going to take you, you never know. When I grew up in Chicago, and I would skate at Johnny's Ice House on breaks, and one day there was a guy there from the local news, and we joked because he had a full cage on, and the joke was, don't go, watch your stick in the corners because the face is insured. Well, I was going to school for journalism, and next thing you know, I'm his intern the following summer, and we're working together. uh,
Yeah.
so it's the people you meet, and then I bring up the name Timmy Stapleton because I played against him in high school, and we went to some of the same skates with Billy Zito when he was still a player, rep, and it was because of those skates that he might wound up making it to the NHL. So always be nice to those people at those pickup skates. You never know who they are or who they know.
Yeah, well, the fun thing about Nashville, just like you said, you never know who you're going to run into. But went out to an open hockey one day and talking to this goalie, nice guy, awesome set of gear. And, we're just talking goalie stuff and, kind of skate off, whatever. And this guy's like, hey, do you know who that is? And I was like, no, who is that? He's like, oh, that's the drummer for Slipknot. I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy plays goalie?
Yeah, Max Weinberg's son.
Yeah, so he was out there. He was just out there ripping around, just casually talking to him. I had no idea.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure he's pretty
like
good.
You said,
too.
You never know who you're going to run into.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny some of the people you run into. I would say the craziest, not craziest, but most interesting character I ran into was a fellow named Father Murray. He was a 72-year-old retired Navy chaplain, and he was still playing hockey.
That's so awesome. Was he playing goalie?
No, but in Chicago he's known as the Holy Goalie. He's been in USA Hockey and stuff, but he's a little bit younger than Father Murray, and he played on a team called the Lawyers, where it was all lawyers, and then you had the Holy Goalie in net, and he joked sometimes saying all those lawyers needed something on their side.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you've had the opportunity as an EBUG to suit up once. They didn't put you on the bench, but you suited up once, and that was for the Bruins, which was interesting because as a kid, that was your team. So what was it like being the Nashville EBUG, but getting to dress for your childhood team and, be ready for them?
I mean, honestly, it was pretty unreal. Growing up playing NHL video games, I would always create myself and put myself on the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
And, as a kid growing up, that was, always kind of the daydream out in the driveway playing around, like, playing for Boston Bruins. And all of a sudden here I am sitting in the Bruins locker room shaking Chara's hand. And, it's just this crazy, surreal experience. And it was incredible.
Now, I heard on some of the other podcasts you've been on that, they had you get dressed and you were in the hallway. At what point did they bring you into the Bruins locker room? Was it just after the game as you were getting your stuff off? Where do they normally keep the EBUG when they're getting ready and kind of in waiting?
Well, I mean, it was a kind of a chaotic environment because nobody really knew what to do or what was going on. So, I quickly ran down there and put Tuukka Rask's gear on. And, I was just kind of sitting in the empty locker room and I'm just like, I can't, there was no TV in there. I didn't know what was going on. And one of the trainers was like, hey, there's a TV out in the hallway if you just want to sit down and watch the game. And so of course I was like, yeah, I mean, at least I want to watch and see what's going on just to know if anything happens.
Right.
But, during intermission, the team, came into the locker room and, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't in there, distracting anybody or, anything like that. So, I just kind of stayed in the hallway there and guys would kind of come pop in and out of the hallway. And then, after the game, went into the locker room, got undressed and, it's crazy being in a locker room full of, an NHL, a full team environment. And another really great experience.
Now, you mentioned wearing Tuukka's equipment because you weren't really supposed to be the EBUG that night. You just happened to be at the game, because normally you'd have your own equipment there, correct? Tuukka's stuff, how did that fit? Had you had to go in the game, did it fit? Or was it too big?
I was pretty impressed. I mean, I'd never worn Vaughn pads until then. And, I was pretty impressed with the Vaughn pads because I had tried Vaughn pads before and I really didn't like the feel. They kind of felt like a pillow, strapped to my leg. But I was impressed with how they felt. They fit great. The skates didn't fit me, so they had to go get a pair of Pecorino's skates from the back. So I had to borrow those. And, it's kind of funny because I'm wearing a, Nashville Predators like undershirt and then, Tuukka Rask's gear. And, had anything really happened, I would have ended up having to put on Tuukka's mask, which, seeing that in person just alone was really cool.
My favorite part of that story and other times when you've told the story is you also had to wear Tuukkas Cup. You know? So
Yeah.
is that something that comes up in conversation often? You know, are you out on the Nashville nightlife going, you know, my claim to fame is I've worn Tuukkas Cup.
No, I try not to pull that one out. You know, that one's
That might be more impressive if you visit Boston, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, I think that might get a better response.
You know, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you were at the game with some of your buddies, you know, when you got the call during intermission. I'm sure they were just going nuts. But when you got home and, you know, what'd your parents think of all of it? And I wondered about that because, you know, I know for me, mom and dad were at all my games that they could be at growing up. They put in the long hours just like I did. It had to have been meaningful for them.
Oh yeah, the phone calls afterwards were endless. You know, calling one person after the other, and everyone's just so excited. And you know, my dad was watching the whole game, and you know, he was tuning in, waiting for something to happen. You know, my mom, you know, absolutely lost her mind, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!" You know, you've been such a big Bruins fan, you know, growing up,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, even just talking to friends and coworkers the next day, which really was kind of the craziest part about it, was the next morning I had to go to work. So you know,
Yeah.
woke up early the next morning and I'm crawling into work, like, wow, that really happened last night. Like, that's crazy.
Now, I know when the Hawks were out in Philly, they had to use an EBUG, and then we all know Scott Foster, and they've done a really good job as an organization of finding a way to thank the EBUG. Even David Ayers, Carolina flew him down to uh, Raleigh, brought him to a game, all of that. Did Boston, you know, do anything for you? Obviously, they're not going to fly you out to Boston just because you wore, you know, you got to dress up and wear Tuukkas, you know, stuff. You know, but
Yeah.
did they do anything as a thank you?
Yeah, so I had given somebody, I forget the name. It was, you know, kind of towards the end of the game, and someone just said, "Hey, you know, what's your address?" You know, whatever. And you know, I gave it to him. Didn't really think anything of it. And same person, I think I got a text from someone saying like, "Hey, just want to confirm your address." I was like, "Yeah, this is it." And not even a week later, I got a package on my doorstep, and it said from the Boston Bruins. And you know, I crack it open, and it was a game jersey with my name on it. So had a nice little personalized card on it too, thanking me for helping him out. And yeah, I got it hanging up upstairs right
Nice. So, you know, I think a lot of people, when they think of an e-bug, it's just somebody sitting around at the game ready to go in, but you get the call sometimes for the morning skate too, correct?
now. Yeah, I mean, not so much like morning skates before games, but practices throughout the week. You know, helping out through training camp stuff too, especially before training camp is usually kind of my time to shine.
Yeah, because they don't want the goalies going through the bad shots yet.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, hey, if let your friends at the Preds know if they need a goalie for morning skate when they're in Minnesota. I'm ready.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll let
Yeah,
them know.
I know the Wild have Connor Beaupre, Don Beaupre's son is their main e-bug though, so I know he's usually ready to go for teams. Um, Let me look at my notes here because I'm going all over the place. On a previous podcast, you mentioned, you know, one of those early season skates with Shea Weber, and he put the puck through the boards. Obviously, people were probably looking around like, okay, that just happened. Uh, were you the one he was shooting at, or was that the other end, or what?
Yeah, so that was just a training session with me, you know, Shea Weber and Seth Jones. And we were just kind of doing, it was a bit of a one-timer drill. You know, the pass would come up the
Yep.
boards, Seth would corral the puck and pass over to Shea, and he would take a shot. And yeah, you know, I didn't really think anything of it, and I don't think anybody else did either. You know, he missed the net on a couple. You know, I made a few saves, a couple went in, but you know, the trainer stops the drill and says, "Hold on, you know, puck just went to the board, so maybe we're gonna take a timeout on this."
Yeah.
So
Maybe we'll do some skating drills.
yeah, so you know, we stepped aside for a second. We all kind of looked around like, no way, that really just
Yeah.
happened. But you know, not the first time, you know, skating with Shea that, you know, something crazy like that has happened, because you know, during the lockout too, he busted a puck in half
Mhm.
off the post, and then he also put a puck through the net before. So I mean, you know, that's just kind of classic Shea.
So I've had the opportunity to skate with some NHL guys before, and it's the only time I've heard the spin of a puck. You hear about baseball players talking about the spin of a baseball. You can hear the laces. Have you ever heard that spin of a puck? And if so, it's probably when he was shooting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It,
I mean, just about every time he shoots,
yeah.
you hear it humming.
Yeah, I've mentioned that to other goalies, and they're like, no way. It's like, oh, it goes fast enough with the clean shot where
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
on football there's the spiral, and I liken it to that. The puck has to be going in that perfect, it has to be going nice and flat, but have that spin to it. And it's
Yeah.
got an
I mean, if the
interesting
puck's going
noise.
end over end fast enough, you get a solid buzz on it too. Like,
Yep, yep, absolutely. And it's funny when I tell people I heard the spin of a puck, and they're like, that doesn't exist. I said, it does, trust me, and it doesn't feel good when you get in the way.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the one summer I was skating with Billy Zito's group, and I was at Rat Hockey, and they were out the hour before, bunch of guys, and they needed a goalie the next day. And they asked, you want to come a little early tomorrow? I was like, yeah. So I wound up skating with them the rest of the summer. But I had gotten hit right in the shoulder in a spot where the bruise came out about a week and a half later when it stopped hurting, but it looked like I had a half sleeve tattoo of a bruise.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, Joe Corvo was sitting next to me in the locker room, and he sees it and he starts pushing on my arm going, does this hurt? Does this hurt? And I go, no, but if you would have done that a week ago, I would have been in extreme
Yeah.
pain.
Right.
I was just lucky the bruise didn't come out until it stopped hurting. Um, so I mentioned before that you work for Southwest Airlines. What do you do there, and how did that come about?
So I'm a ramp agent. I'm out on the
Mm-hmm.
tarmac. I'm marshalling in planes. I'm driving bags around, stuff like that. But a lot of people in my family actually work for Southwest. My
Okay.
stepdad's a grounds mechanic. My sister is a flight attendant. My other sister is customer service. So Southwest just kind of runs in the family a
It's
bit.
the family business. So as somebody who gets to handle baggage, what's the craziest thing you've had to load or unload from a plane?
Yeah, we get literally anything and everything. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is we'll ship dead bodies basically.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're in a casket and they weigh 600-700 pounds. Sometimes it's just a cardboard box and it's like you put it on the plane. But yeah, I mean, we also do like body parts, and I've seen things that say bull semen on the side of it. So we're putting bull semen on the plane and shipping it around. So yeah.
Funny. I had a high school friend that became a baggage handler for AirTran before they became part of Southwest, and he saw my bag once I was flying home from Minnesota, and he saw a hockey bag. He goes, I wonder if that's Joe's. So he looked at the tag, and he made sure it was the first bag on the carousel, so I didn't have to wait. And then he asked me, when are you leaving? So I told him. He goes, oh, I'm working that day. I'll make sure yours is on the plane, so it's the first one off in in Minneapolis. So that was very kind of him.
Yeah, I ended up having a different experience finding a friend's bag, because another goalie buddy of mine, I saw him, he was flying. I recognized his pads and saw his name on the tag and everything. And I ended up throwing a bunch of like airplane cups in there and like stickers and just packing his bag full of random crap. And I text him like, hey, did you find anything in your bag? And he's like, I was wondering what that was. Like, what was that all about? Like, surprise.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Now getting back to the Predators, because I forgot to ask about this, is you've mentioned on previous podcasts that, they've kind of adopted you in a way that when they go out, they'll give you a call and say, hey, come on out with us. What's that like when you show up and, nobody's going to notice you with that group, and they're like, which one of these doesn't belong? But, I've been around hockey players long enough, once you're one of the guys, you're one of the guys, so what's that like when you go out with them?
Yeah, I don't really get the call much anymore. I think I might be getting too old for these young guys. But, getting the call before was, it was insane. You walk in and you're hanging out with these pros. But, I mean, hanging out with them, they were just another group of guys. And especially in Nashville, back in 2012 when I was, really kind of hanging out with them and practicing with them a lot and going out. Nobody really knew who they were. I mean, going to a bar with Pecorine and he goes to pay for his tab and, he says, "Oh, I'm Pecorine." And they're like, "Sorry, what?" Like they didn't even know who that was. So, it was a really good time. I had a lot of fun hanging out with them.
I've heard some players say that it's kind of nice being in Nashville where, people love hockey, but country music is number one and will always be number one there. So it's easy to be out and about and still have your anonymity there.
Oh yeah. You can definitely fly under the radar.
Yeah, it's not like Mike Fisher can go out with his wife because they'll be noticed, but that's a that's a different story, right? So one of the things I want to do with this podcast is not just talk about hockey stories and all that fun stuff, but find out more about people. When you're not skating, what makes you tick? What interests you? What kind of grounds you when you're not on the ice?
I mean, honestly, I got a handful of hobbies that I kind of bounce around with. I got a bunch of records here. So, I got into, spinning records and stuff like that. But, lately I've been taking on this YouTube project. So that's kind of been taking up a lot of my spare time.
So tell me a little bit about that YouTube project. Is it going to be, like I've got a channel where it's just my beer league highlights. What are you planning to put out with this YouTube channel?
I plan on doing a handful of things, really. I mean, I kind of want to do kind of the typical gear review kind of stuff, some unboxing. I got a new Fave set coming pretty soon, so I want to do a fun unboxing video of that. I also got a pair of vintage goalie pads. They're old brown leather Jofa pads that I got them. I got to do an unboxing video of those because I want to do some really fun, vintage goalie stuff. So.
Yeah.
But I also want to do some fun interview stuff. There's some, coaches around here that I want to interview. I also, I would like to travel around and interview other emergency goalies and kind of get their stories from their perspective.
That'd be cool. I know I'd watch. I saw the tease this morning that you were getting that new set, and I'll admit there was a little bit of gear envy because, as you've seen from my Instagram feed, I'm still wearing 20-year-old Vaughn. So
you rock them well, though, man. They look great.
Yeah, I remember talking to Mike Vaughn at the Let's Play Hockey Expo. It was probably 3-4 years ago. My son was trying on Goldberg's pads from the movie. They had them at their booth.
No way.
Mike Vaughn is sitting there with Andy Moog, and Moog is asking, "You see anything you like here?" You go, "Yeah, but I've got some old pads. I don't know how to do." And the new modern style equipment. And Moog's going, "You don't want to say that with Mike sitting here." And Mike was smiling, going, "That's what I like to hear. I like to hear that our stuff is quality and last." And
yeah,
here
seriously.
it is. I bought it in 1999. Here it is.
Still rocking.
And rocking stuff from the 1900s, and it's 20 years later, and it's I've had the pads in to have some minor repairs at a shop here in the Twin Cities. They've replaced some straps. That's been the biggest issue, is the leather straps. There's only so long they're going to last, but other than that, they've held up pretty darn well. But I'm ready for a new set.
Yeah. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, but it's strange because I look at some of the stuff, like the new CCM Axis line. There's no give to them compared to what I'm wearing. You mentioned earlier you tried on some old Vaughns and they were pillows, and I'm going, that's exactly what I wear.
Oh yeah.
The puck hits them and they just fall down. Where the Axis pads I was looking at, it's like the puck's going to wind up at the other end.
Absolutely rockets. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But you've got a nice old set of CCM pads there. You got the Gatekeepers. How did you come across those?
Those I got those back in 2006. I had just graduated high school, kind of showing my age here. But I really fell in love with the Gatekeeper. Watching guys like Brodeur and Belfour and Kolzig rocking them in the NHL, and
yeah.
I really loved the graphic, and actually my dad ended up finding him on eBay.
Oh, cool.
He found a great deal on him, and he was like, "Yeah, here you go." And I had outgrown the set that I had before, and they were incredible. I absolutely loved those pads.
They were a pad that was a little bit ahead of their time, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, they were. I never wore them, but I got to check them out a couple times when I was coaching high school at the time. So I'm showing my age if those were the pads you got in high school. But yeah, they were definitely ahead of their time. I remember the first time I saw a pair of pads without a knee roll. I'm like, how's that going to work?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, as we talk equipment, you know, we all know today in the NHL, Kay Whitmore has to sign off on all of the equipment. As the EBUG, do they have to measure your stuff? Is it more or less show up with what you have because they know you're not trying to cheat if you get into a game? It's just
Yeah.
you're trying to survive.
I mean, honestly, you know, my stuff hasn't been signed off by Kay Whitmore or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of stuff that I do have is, you know, NHL hand-me-downs, or, you know, like my chest protector is, you know, Pecorine parts. You know, my pants are, I think my pants are Pecorine hand-me-downs too. So, you know, parts and pieces like that are already NHL approved, but, you know, stuff like my gloves and pads, you know, custom sets that I got myself, they haven't been measured, but I mean, considering it's the new era, and, you know,
Yeah.
nobody really tries to rock the 12-inch pad anymore. I think, you know, they just kind of assume that I'm not trying to come out here and cheat
Yeah.
for, you know, the possibility I get into a game.
I think if I got into a game with my T4000 Trapper, they would look at it and go, "That's a little too big." I think that may have been the largest glove they ever made.
Just swallowing everything whole.
Yeah, I remember in college when it came in, and our coach who handled all the equipment, he goes, "The thing came with an 18-wheeler just to get it in here." You know, he's like, "That thing's huge."
No joke though, those things are huge.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Especially since it's so well broken in.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of your equipment is hand-me-downs, but when you order new stuff like your new Lefebvre's, is that something where you get to order kind of through the team and not necessarily get a discount, but you get to go bypass the middleman and get a little bit of savings?
Yeah.
Or how does that work?
No, I haven't been able to do that. There's been a couple times I've talked to Pete Rogers, the equipment manager. I'm like, hey, so how about I just buy a new set for you guys? And
Yep.
you know, I wanted to get a new set of CCM eFlex 4s at the beginning of the season, and you know, with Lefebvre and CCM splitting, he said, you know, not only the Preds but a ton of teams in the NHL were putting in huge bulk orders of CCM gear so that they had enough to last them the entire year, so that when they split, you know, they still had the quality gear coming out of Lefebvre
Yeah.
factory.
Now, is that why you went with the Lefebvre stuff rather than the eFlex 4s? Because if anybody's a gear nerd, they know Lefebvre has been making the equipment. Now CCM sent their stuff overseas, so that's why a lot of NHL goalies have switched, because they like the craftsmanship. So is that why you
Yeah.
went that route rather than the eFlex 4s when you had the chance?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely it. You know, I've been wearing you know, I went to Reebok after my Gatekeeper pads, and rocked Reebok until, you know, CCM came back with the eFlex series, and, you know, of course, all of that is, you know, designed and built by Lefebvre. So, you know, when I heard they were splitting, you know, before I realized Lefebvre was going to do their own thing, I was, you know, kind of bummed, to be honest. But, you know, when Lefebvre announced that they were going to be rebuilding their brand, bringing it back and doing their own thing, you know, I really got excited. So, you know, of course, you know, getting new gear, my first choice is going to be Lefebvre.
Awesome. Now, you talking CCM, you've got a sweet CCM mask, but you've also started rocking a sweet Cooper SK2000 with the HM30 cage. I've worn one with, you know, the Hasek style, but what made you want to go with the old school combo?
Honestly, so a buddy of mine, he told me he had an Urbe helmet, you know, the Jofa with the
Yep.
straight bar cage, and he's like, it's just laying around my parents' house. Like, do you want it? And I'm like, yeah, dude, absolutely. So, you know, he hooked me up with this helmet, and it was awesome. I ended up, you know, taking the Urbe cage and replacing it with I forget which model it is. It's It's not the HM30. It's a little bit shorter. I think it might be an HM40 or something like that. I could be wrong, but I still rock that every once in a while, the Jofa helmet with the Cooper cage. And then, I ended up branching out and getting, the SK2000, and then I am getting another SK2000 with the Hasek helmet.
Yeah.
And,
they're not easy
and then I
to
found
come by.
another, they're not, but I ended up finding, I forget the other cage. It's another straight bar cage, but it's just the squares, and it's, so I have way too many helmets now. I went down a rabbit hole of vintage, Cooper helmets, and here I am with, 6 helmets.
Yeah. When I was in college, I suffered a concussion my freshman year. And after that, I went to the Hasek helmet because we couldn't have a cat eye cage. Now you can in the NCAA. But I absolutely loved it. It was light. I had full range of motion, everything. I didn't wear a dangler. And everybody was worried I'd get hit in the neck. Not once did I get hit in the neck. Well, then I got another concussion because I took a slap shot square to the Cooper logo practice. And, it was the one player on the team who had no control over his shot. So I know he wasn't doing it on purpose. But that first game back with the mask, with the extended, I don't like danglers, so I haven't worn one, but I had a mask that had an extended chin to it. Puck gets right up under and gets me in the neck. I go, oh, how do you like that? I go the whole time with it exposed, nothing. The first one back, but I still miss how light that helmet was. The vision in it, your peripheral.
It breathes so well.
Amazing.
Too.
Yeah, and even just looking down when the puck's down, in front of you in a scrum, you are better range of motion. It was a great helmet, but I understand I probably shouldn't be wearing it. So, I wear traditional mask these days. I just upgraded to a Bauer NME9 almost 2 years ago. So I like it. It's a good mask.
I wore Bauer for a while, but then, I tried the CCM helmet, and the first time I put it on, it fit my head and face so well. I was blown away. I was like, this is it. Like, this is my helmet.
Yeah, I tried the CCM, and it's kind of like CCM versus Bauer skates. It's not that you prefer one or the other. It's just they're almost made for certain foot or head types. It just fits better because they're both great masks. They've come a long way. I know the look of the traditional goalie mask hasn't changed a lot over the years, but the way they're making them has come leaps and bounds for protecting the goalie, which is great.
You're right.
One of the other questions I want to ask, away from hockey, we talked a little bit about, what kind of hobbies, but personal life, is there a significant other? If so, what do they think of all this ice time you're getting and taking away from them?
Yeah, I mean, actually, my girlfriend Olivia has actually been pretty good about it. She understands that, hockey is a huge passion of mine. And, I think the fact that I'm an EBUG kind of gives me a little more credibility, but she's pretty okay with it. It gets me out of her hair for a couple hours, and gets me out to do things that I love.
Yeah, I know for me that I try and skate at least once a week, and that hour that's almost my therapy for the week. And I think that really came to light during the quarantine when they shut down all the rinks here in Minnesota and couldn't do that. And it was like, yep, I need to skate. And I think even my family started to realize that. And so when I got the call, seeing if I could do a pickup skate across the border in Hudson, Wisconsin, they went, yep, you better get out there. You better go. And it was crazy how good that first skate after quarantine felt for everybody I talked to. They all said, I didn't realize how much I needed that.
Yeah, I did notice my first skate back, my lungs weren't really sure what to think about it, but the entirety of my being knew exactly what to think about it. Very excited, very, very relieved. But yeah, my lungs were a little confused.
But everybody that was on the ice was in the same boat, which was nice. It wasn't like, I don't skate much over the summer because most of my teammates have cabins up north, so we don't field the summer team. So I just do fill-ins here and there, but you come back for that first skate of the fall, and some guys have been skating all summer, and then there's those of us who haven't, and it's like, whew, this is tough. But that first one back after quarantine, we're all in the same boat. So It's not like when
a
I
fresh
was,
start.
yeah, it's not like when I was sucking wind, somebody was skating by me with fresh legs. So it was like, no, we were all in the same boat, which was nice
Yeah.
and not normal. So I don't know if I've got anything else, unless there's anything on your mind that you think other people should know before I dive into the last few questions I plan on asking everybody.
Yeah, I got nothing, man. Let's get it.
Yeah. So, I mentioned the Let's Play Hockey Expo here in Minnesota. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's at the same
Absolutely.
time as the boys high school hockey tournament. Any aspirations of getting up here and making that pilgrimage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, anytime I hear about the expo, it sounds like such a great experience. So, definitely, any excuse to go on any kind of hockey trip, I'm all
Yeah.
about it. So, getting on a plane, flying up somewhere and doing something hockey related, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I take my boy there every year. It's I take him out of school for the day, which in Minnesota during the state high school hockey tournament, it's almost an excused absence if you're out of school during one of those days, especially if your school's in the tournament, which their school has been the past few years. In fact, they won it this year.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just been one of those things. And I started taking him when he was 3, and Warrior was there with the booth, and they had this tiny little set of goalie pads as a joke, and they fit him perfectly. And so, the guys at the booth were just taking pictures. Like, we just brought these as a joke. We didn't think they'd fit anybody, but every year since then, we've gotten a picture of him in different goalie gears, almost as a growth scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's not as exciting anymore now that he's 13-year-old kid, or no, he just turned 12. My daughter's 13. So it's not as exciting now. And it's like, yeah, the equipment should fit you. So the craziest coaching moment you've had from your playing days of a coach just going nuts, have there been any?
Not really any crazy coaching moments. I will say, my first skate with John Hines on the Preds.
Mm-hmm.
We were just in the middle of a drill, and he stopped the drill completely, pulled everybody in, and he kind of went off on everybody a little bit. Said, if you guys are going to be skating in my drill, you're going to be doing it correctly, and really kind of put them in their place. And it was my first experience with John Hines, and after that, I really felt like, okay, you know what, John Hines is going to be doing a good job here. He knows what he expects from his players, and he knows what he wants to get out of them. So
I like that.
I think that might be the closest one.
Okay. Favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh, favorite all time. Growing up as a kid, obviously a Bruins fan. The Gary Cheevers mask with the stitches across them. I always thought that was really cool. The mask from the movie Youngblood.
Ooh.
The opposing goalie's mask. I think it was the skull on the mask there. I always thought that was really cool too.
That's a good one. I thought you were going to go with Andy Moog's Bruin when you started down the Bruin side, but you can't go wrong with Cheevers. Favorite stick you've ever used?
Oh, favorite stick. I'm using a Warrior right now. I don't even know which one it is. It's one of Pekka's old sticks. You know what? My favorite stick, kind of funny story. I was just going to a Preds practice just to get a Subban jersey signed for my girlfriend. And, I'm standing there, waiting guys, they're coming out. And Pex comes out. And he's like, Bones, what's up, buddy? Do you need any sticks? And I'm like, yeah, I'm down to like 1 or 2. And hands me a stick. And I'm like, oh, thanks, buddy. And he hands me another stick. I'm like, wow. And he hands me a third stick. I'm like, buddy, what are you doing? They're going to think I stole all these. But those sticks, I loved those sticks. They were chopped down a little bit lower than I was used to. They were a shorter paddle, and I think at the time I was using 26-inch paddles, and I think that one might have been like a 25 or even a 24. So, that really kind of changed my perspective on how to use a stick. But also, he had a big knob right on the handle there.
Okay.
Like right where the the paddle meets the shaft, and I put that on my stick anytime I get a new stick now.
Okay. Yeah, I've always put a grip down there just so I get a good strong grip. But I've seen that knob you're talking about, and I haven't put one on my stick, but I've seen other goalies, and I've kind of played around with it. I've toyed with the idea of cutting a trigger grip into my sticks, but I don't trust my craftsmanship to do that.
I don't trust mine either.
Yeah. So, favorite youth hockey memory?
My favorite youth hockey memory. Actually, it might even be when I was first playing roller hockey, as a goalie. It was a big game. Ended up going to a shootout. I think the game was super close, and I ended up shutting out the shootout. But it went deep. So many
Mm-hmm.
rounds, and ended up winning. And that was such a huge, relief, and seeing how excited my parents were, and all of that. So I think that might be one of my favorite youth memories.
Nice. Best chirp you've heard on the ice?
Oh man, I don't even know. I mean, especially skating with the Preds guys, there's some good ones.
I was gonna say, or been privy to hearing from those guys, because I know there's been some good ones I've heard of from contacts in the NHL.
Right. Honestly, you know what? I can't even think of one right now. That kind of throws me for a loop. I haven't even thought about chirps for a long time. So, yeah, no, I might have to just pass on that question.
Yeah, my favorite one that I've heard, it was from the NHL. Player, I'll leave nameless, was traded from one team to another, and he absolutely loved his dog. And so first time playing that previous team, he's skating by the bench during a TV timeout, and one of his good buddies from the former team just shouts out, "Hey, buddy's a homosexual." And it was like, he goes, "It's not like that matter," but it was just so out of, like, where did that come from, that it just
completely random
for a loop. It got in his head. He's like, "What?" Yeah. So that's got to be one of mine that I didn't hear on the ice, but have heard the story from multiple people, so I assume it's true. The worst post-game beer anybody's brought?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've had bad beer just on my own. So the worst post beer that anyone's brought for anyone else to drink, I don't know. I will say the worst post beer I've experienced was traveling up to Minneapolis to play for a buddy's beer league team. He said, "Hey, I need a goalie, and would you want to fly in and play?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, why not?" It's the middle of winter, and I fly into Minneapolis, and
Yeah.
of course, all the guys are like, "All right, we're having beers in the parking lot," and I'm standing out there like, "What are you guys doing? Like, this is all for like beers in the parking lot? Oh my god!" I was so frozen.
What rink was that one at? Because most of the rinks let us drink in the locker room for that reason.
Yeah, I don't remember which rink it was, but yeah,
Okay.
it was freezing cold.
Well, next time you're in Minneapolis to play, you got to let me know. I'll make sure you get some good beer.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we talked favorite stick. When you tape it, is it heel to toe or toe to heel?
I go heel to toe. Actually, I kind of go up pretty high up on the heel, and then
Me too.
I do a couple passes all the way down and then all the way up.
Me too. I'm with you there. I started taping my stick. I was a big Belfour fan as a kid, so I tried emulating his, and then I just kind of formed my own style. For a while, back in the days of wood sticks, I adopted Trevor Kidd's a thin piece on the sides of the stick, because that's where it got chipped up all the time, and that helped a little bit. Favorite number to wear as a goalie?
You know what? It used to be 31. Lately I've been rocking number 1. Just the
Okay.
Uno.
I like it. And any advice for young goalies?
Young goalies, I guess first advice I would say is, just go out and have fun. I mean, grab a hold of the fundamentals and try to learn, the basics like skating, and but try not to get too wrapped up, and don't let the pressure or anything get to you. Just go out and enjoy yourself and have a good time.
Absolutely. That's probably the best thing you can tell the kids is remember why you're out there. Winning's fun, but it's having fun, because when you get to be my age, when the game is past you and you're simply out there for exercise, it's the time in the locker room with the boys, and some of those fun plays. It's not the score you remember.
Oh no. I mean, even to this day, there's some times where I got to take a step back and remember, don't forget to have fun.
Yep. Yeah. There's been some beer league games. I really like the team I'm on, but we're not a very good team fundamentally. And I just remind myself, hey, I'm here for exercise. I'm playing well. They're doing what they can. It is what it is.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah. So, well, hey, Dustin, thanks. I appreciate you taking time out of your day, having the conversation. I'll make sure people know how to find you on social media. I'll put it in the show notes as well. Um, and when you're in Minneapolis, let me know, and we'll grab a beer, maybe a skate.
Yeah, man,
Who knows?
absolutely.
We'll go
Dude, I'm
skating on
so
the
down.
ponds.
Yeah, no, I'm here for that.
All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to thank you for listening to the first real episode of Tendy Talk. I need to thank my first guest, Dustin Smith, for being gracious with his time. Follow Dustin on Instagram at DemBones. He puts out some great content, and I look forward to the launch of his new YouTube channel. I know I'll be one of the first subscribers, that's for sure. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Simply search for Washed Up Goalie and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and all podcast episodes. I need to give a big thank you to the great hockey band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music in my intro and close out my episodes. Download their music on iTunes, listen to them on Amazon Music, or wherever else you may stream your music from. Word is they're working on a new album. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. I'm really excited about one who said he'd like to come on after the Stanley Cup Finals conclude. If you're a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you are listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and body square to the puck.